The purpose of this video is to stress how important it is that our students get online and use the practice and release test before we take interim, before we take STAR. So I want to go through and I want to show you some of the things that are available and some of the ways in which we access those accessibility options in the test. So we're going to go to the practice and release test. Now, when the students get here, I would like for them to log on with their TSDS number because that enables them to practice those options in which are available to them via what they've already been registered for. But for today, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sign in as a guest so that I can show you a variety of different options. So I'm going to sign in. I am going to choose to be a sixth grader. Once I sign in, this allows me access to all of the release and practice tests. So I can go to 2018, I can go to 2019, I can go to 2021. Okay, it also allows me to go into the TELPAS practice test. And we know that our students who take TELPAS need to get in and practice, and allows me to get into the revising and editing. So I am going to choose the 2021 STAR reading release test for this example. Okay. Now, we never want the students to choose auto text to speech, and we do not want to set auto text to speech for a student because the system will read everything. You cannot pause it, you cannot stop it, you cannot turn it off. You just have to wait for it to finish reading. Content and language support, I'm going to go ahead and turn that on so that I can show you what that option is. Zoom, the students can Zoom to whatever they want. So we need to get them to get that practice and that play out of the way. Here's where they really like to play, and that is by setting the different colors, the different highlights. And so when they do that, that takes up time. And we want them to get that out of their system so that they know what that is so they don't spend time playing when they're in STAR or in the interim. Okay, they can also change their mouse. And they can have a great big mouse. For some students, that might be good. For some students, it might not. But again, let them play with it, get it out of their way before they get into the actual test. Okay, I'm going to turn on spelling assistance and I'm going to turn on text to speech. When you have text to speech turned on, it's going to be necessary for them to do the test.
This text is being read aloud.
Okay, now they can choose different voices.
This text is being read aloud.
This text is being read aloud.
Okay. They can change the pitch, and they can change the rate.
This text is being read aloud.
So we want to make sure that they get all of this playing done and out of the way so that they don't use up their testing time. Okay. Now, once I'm in a reading test, there's some important things that the kids need to know, and that is that when it comes up, it's going to be a split screen. They're going to have the reading selection here. They're going to have the questions here. These arrows allow them to have some control over their view. They can go through and read it on just the screen. It's with just the selection on the screen. They can see it split again, or they can see just the questions. But the job of these arrows is to be able to help the students be able to get the selection and the questions side by side. Okay, we notice here that it says it will not read because we know that in a reading test, the story itself cannot be read aloud. But up here, we can select. We have to select first, right click, and say, speak the selection.
Elena's parents are having a 25th anniversary party.
Okay, I can choose just a single word. And I right click and I say speak selection.
California.
Now, if I right click and I say speak the passage, it's going to read all of this. You cannot pause it once it starts to read. It will read the entire passage to you. Okay, so I want to highlight, and to me, the 25th anniversary party is important. So I select, I right click, and I highlight. Okay, the fact that they live in California is important to me. And that's something different, so I'm going to highlight it in a different color. So I can actually use my colors of highlighting in order to be able to help me sort out the information that I need. Okay, one of the things that I really like is this line reader. This line reader helps me to be able to stay on track with where I'm reading, because if I'm a person who has to use my finger to track, this will help me stay. It will help me with my focus. It will help with a lot of different things while I'm reading online. Okay? And I can use it in my questions. I can use it in my text selection. It has a dictionary. When I choose the dictionary, I can look up the word. Okay. Now here, this is a problem, and this is why in part of the notes in the training, we have to make sure the students are on mute.
Anniversary.
Because this does not turn off. Even if you do not have text to speech on, this is a part of the dictionary. And so if the students don't have their headphones on and they don't have text to speech, they can still click that. So when they click it, the entire room will hear anniversary. So we want to make sure that we set all of the computers that do not have text to speech and headphones to mute. Okay. We have the notepad. In the notepad, you can type your notes. Okay. And you can save. Though when we use the notepad, that saves throughout the test. But we have an option here for sticky notes. The sticky notes are temporary. Okay. They do not go throughout the test. We need to know the difference between those. We have the zoom in, which makes it bigger. We have the zoom out, what makes it smaller or back to the average, the standard setting. Okay. We can mark this question for review. We see right here that flag is marked for review. We can see that it has notes. Okay. We have the speak option, we have the speak question, and we also have the strike through. So if I know that this is not my answer, then I can strike through. Okay, but do you see how I had to click off to be able to end that strike through? All right, for the content and language support, these words or word selections that are in boxes, okay, that is the content and language support. Since that talked about paragraph 28, this brings paragraph 28 up to you. Contribute to, it says the definition or simplified wording for that. Chatted, talked. Okay, so that's why it's important that a student that has content and language support knows that if I'm going to click here, that means I don't have to go find paragraph 28, that it'll bring it up for me. But if it's a word that I might not know, then it's going to simplify that word for me. Okay. All right, I can go on to the next question. When I go on to the next question, you see that that text selection is still there because these questions all have to do with this text selection. So on this question, again, I have content and language support. I can now highlight something else. I have to select it first, right click, choose highlight. Okay. I can go on to question number 3. I can go on to 4, 5. Okay, question number 7. See, I don't have a question number 8. Am I at the end of the test? No, that means that's all the questions that are with this selection. So I have to go up to here and click on next. And it says you have some questions that you have not answered. Do you want to continue? Yes, I do. Okay. And now it gives me the next text selection and the questions that go with this selection. Here it tells me that none of this can be read. However, I can get my content and language support. I can use my dictionary and I can type in a different word. Okay. Oops. I can type in a different word. And again, we need to keep the computers on
Birthday.
mute so that doesn't just blurt out across the room. Okay. I can go to the next. Okay. Here, I'm just going to answer some questions so that I can show you what it looks like. See this check mark? Whenever I answer a question, it puts a check mark there so that I know that that is answered. Okay, I go to the end of that selection. Okay, and I go to the next selection. Okay, and if I want this read, I'm going to select, right click, say speak selection.
Read this poem by Nikki Grime.
Okay, now let me show you what happens if I say speak passage, because this is a small amount.
Read the selection and choose the best answer to each question. Read this poem by Nikki Grimes about a discussion that Gabby has with her teacher.
Do you see how there is no way for me to be able to pause what is being read, that goes through and reads the entire passage? So if a student wants to read the entire passage, that's great. But if they want just a small part, they need to know. Again, my line reader. Okay, I can use my line reader. Here I have mark for review. I have sticky notes, my speak option, my speak the question, my strike through. So if I click speak question.
What is the main message of the poem?
Okay.
Option A. It is good to be honest when sharing your feelings. Option B.
See, no matter what I do,
Events
no
from
matter
history
where I
can
click,
be relevant today.
it's not going to stop it.
Option C.
It is going to read through
Wise
the
people
entire
listen
thing.
more than they speak.
So that's why it's important
Option
for
D.
the kids to practice
There is a
what
right
it
time
is
and place
they
for
want
imagination.
read. Okay. All right. Do you see up here? It now has. See up here where it now has end test. Okay. The end test. When I end the test, now the student would have answered all of the questions or most of the questions, but I just wanted to get you to this screen. The end test showed you, I had this one flagged because I wanted to go back to it. I had these triangles that says I did not answer those. These, it does not show me what my answer is, but it does show me that I do have an answer. Okay, so I can go back to this one. Okay, and there's a sticky note that I have for this question. It stays only with that question. It doesn't go with me throughout the test. But if I come up here for my notepad, there's my note that I made that I can use throughout the test. If I come here and I say sticky notes, then this is a new sticky note for this page, for this question. It does not travel throughout. Okay, so I'm going to go back to end test. Okay, at this point, I would raise my hand. I would let my test administrator know that I am ready to submit. My test administrator would say, are you sure that you want to submit? Because only questions in which you have chosen an answer for will be graded. And then once we go back and we grade all of them, the student goes back and enters the answer. Okay, they can submit and they can say yes. And then for our practice test, it will tell me my maximum score, because remember, this year every question is worth 1 point. After this year, the questions may be worth more than 1 point, and that's why that is in there. All right, I hope that gave you a good idea of what's in there and some of the things that the students can be able to practice, and why we would want to make sure that we have the students getting on there and practicing and going through the test as much and as often as possible.